As you listen, you may notice your breathing slow, your shoulders soften, and your thoughts begin to drift, as if you are sitting near a quiet campfire at the edge of a long day. This story is designed to be gentle and unhurried. You do not need to stay fully alert. Nothing important will be missed. Tonight, we will walk slowly into an Ice Age camp at dusk, not with urgency, but with curiosity and calm. Imagine the fading light, the cooling air, and the steady warmth that awaits inside the shelter. If your eyes feel heavy already, that is perfectly fine. Let the sound of my voice guide you as the day quietly comes to rest. Before we continue, I invite you to notice where you are listening from tonight. What country are you in, and what time is it there right now? Is it late evening, or already deep into the night? Wherever you are welcome here. And before we move further, if you enjoy calm historical stories like this, you may gently press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about where you are listening from. There is no rush. Once that is done, or if you prefer not to, you can simply settle back, knowing the story will continue at a peaceful pace. Now, let us imagine the moment just before night fully arrives during the Ice Age. The sun hangs low, coloring the landscape in soft shades of grey and amber. From a distance, the camp appears quiet and still, almost blending into the land itself. There is no sharp boundary between nature and shelter. Everything feels low, grounded, and intentional. As people return from the day's tasks, their movements slow naturally, guided by tired muscles and familiar routines. This is not a place of excitement, but of return. If your mind begins to wander here, that is normal. You can gently bring it back to the image of approaching the camp. As you step closer in your imagination, you begin to sense the difference between the open land and the protected space of the camp. The wind feels softer. Sounds become more muted. The ground beneath your feet feels more stable. This transition is important. It marks the shift from effort to rest. Inside the camp, no one is rushing anymore. The day has already given what it could. You might hear quiet footsteps or the subtle movement of hides adjusting in a breeze. Take a slow breath here. There is nothing you need to do except continue listening. The shelters themselves are simple, low structures shaped by careful hands and long experience. They are built not to impress, but to protect. As dusk deepens, these shelters seem to settle into the earth, becoming part of it. Inside, the light is dim, but warm. The design holds heat close, a benefit allowed by Allah through knowledge and effort passed down over generations. This warmth is not overwhelming. It is steady and comforting. If you imagine yourself pausing at the entrance, you might feel a sense of relief. This is where the body understands it is allowed to rest. As people enter the shelter, their posture changes. Shoulders lower. Movements become smaller. The outside world, with its wide spaces and cold air, fades into the background. Inside, the air feels still. The sounds are familiar. This familiarity brings calm. Nothing unexpected is likely to happen here. This sense of predictability is soothing to the mind. If your thoughts feel busy, let them slow to match the pace of the camp. There is time. There is quiet. You are safe to continue listening. Near the center of the shelter, a small fire burns gently. It is carefully maintained, not large or dramatic. The fire provides warmth and light by the permission of Allah, through natural means understood by these early people. The soft crackling sound blends into the background, steady and unchanging. Shadows move slowly across the shelter walls. No one stares directly at the flames for long. The fire is simply part of the space, like breathing. As you imagine this scene, you may notice your eyelids growing heavier. That is a good sign. The light from the fire reveals simple objects placed where they are always expected to be. Tools rest along the edges. Hides are folded neatly. Nothing feels out of place. This order is not strict, but familiar. Each item has been touched many times before. The shelter carries the quiet memory of daily life. You do not need to remember every detail. Let the overall feeling settle instead. If your attention drifts for a moment, You can gently return to the glow of the fire. As dusk turns into night, voices grow softer. Conversations, if any, are brief and low. There is no need to explain much. Everyone understands the rhythm of the evening. The shelter encourages stillness. Bodies naturally move closer together, sharing warmth. This closeness is practical, but it also brings comfort. Inside this small space, the world feels manageable. If you find yourself feeling calmer now than before, simply notice that feeling and allow it to deepen. The smell inside the shelter is familiar and reassuring. It carries hints of earth, dried grasses, and warm hides, mixed with the faint trace of smoke. The air is not sharp. It is gentle and lived in. Over time, this scent becomes associated with rest and safety. As you imagine breathing it in, let your breathing slow. There is no need to control it. The body knows how to rest when given the chance. Outside, the temperature continues to drop, but inside the shelter, warmth remains steady. The walls block the wind. Sounds from outside become distant and unimportant. This separation allows the mind to relax. Awareness turns inward. Muscles that worked all day finally loosen. If you notice tension in your body, imagine it softening here, as if the shelter itself is supporting you. Even children in the camp sense this shift. Their movements slow. They stay close to adults, not because of fear, but because it feels right. The shelter holds everyone in the same quiet rhythm. No one is entertained. No one is bored. They are simply present. This kind of presence does not demand attention. It invites rest. If your thoughts begin to fade in and out, you are listening exactly as intended. The fire continues to burn at a low, steady pace. Someone may quietly adjust it, adding a small piece of fuel. The action is unremarkable and calm. There is no sudden change. The night unfolds slowly. Time is not measured here. It is felt. If you lose track of how long you have been listening, that is perfectly fine. The story will keep going without effort from you. As the camp settles further, the shelter grows quieter. Breathing becomes more noticeable than speech. The firelight dims slightly, and shadows soften. This is a moment of transition, not an ending. Nothing dramatic happens. The calm simply deepens. If your mind begins to drift away from the images, you can allow it. The sound of my voice will remain steady. The sense of safety inside the shelter comes not from strength or control, but from familiarity. This place has been used before. It will be used again. For now, it serves its purpose. The body recognizes this and responds by relaxing. If your eyes are closed, keep them closed. If they are open, let them close when they are ready. At this point in the evening, there is very little movement. The camp has done what it needed to do. The outside world can wait until morning. Inside, there is nothing to solve, nothing to prepare. Just rest. Let your attention rest as well. You do not need to hold onto every word. The shelter remains quiet, steady, and unassuming. It does not promise anything grand. It simply offers a pause. This pause is enough. If sleep is already approaching, you can let it come naturally. The story does not require effort. And as dusk fully gives way to night, the Ice Age camp becomes almost still. The fire glows softly. Breathing is slow and even. The world outside feels far away. You can stay here as long as you like, listening, resting, or drifting gently towards sleep, knowing that the calm will continue without asking anything from you. Inside the Ice Age camp, the shape of the shelter quietly defines how everything feels. The walls curve inward, not sharply, but gently, creating a sense of enclosure that is calming rather than confining. This shape is not accidental. Over many seasons, people learned which forms held warmth best and softened the force of the wind. As you imagine sitting inside, notice how the shelter seems to guide your attention inward. There are no long straight lines pulling the eye outward. Everything encourages stillness. If your thoughts begin to slow here, you can let them. The shelter is low to the ground. and this low ceiling helps trap warmth close to the body. Standing fully upright is unnecessary here. Most activities happen close to the earth. This naturally reduces movement and energy. The design gently reminds the body that the day is over. You might imagine yourself sitting or lying down, feeling supported by the space itself. There is no pressure to move quickly. Everything feels measured and deliberate. The materials of the shelter are familiar and practical. Hides, wood, bone, and packed earth come together in layers. Each layer serves a purpose, allowing benefit by the permission of Allah through knowledge gained over time. The hides block cold air. The earth stabilizes temperature. Nothing is decorative. Everything exists to serve comfort and safety. This simplicity makes the space easier to understand and easier for the mind to rest within. As you remain inside this imagined shelter, notice how sound behaves differently here. Voices do not echo. Movements are softened. Even the fire sounds quieter, absorbed by the curved walls. This acoustic calm helps the mind settle. If your attention drifts away from the details, that is completely fine. You can gently return to the feeling of being surrounded by calm. The entrance to the shelter is small, designed to keep warmth inside. Once it is closed or partially covered, the outside world fades almost completely. This separation is important. It signals a shift from awareness of danger to trust in the space. The body responds by relaxing muscles that were tense throughout the day. If you notice your shoulders or jaw relaxing now, simply allow it. Inside, the shelter feels neither large nor small. It feels sufficient. There is just enough space for the people inside to exist comfortably together. This balance creates emotional ease. There is no emptiness to fill and no crowding to escape. Everything feels appropriate. Let this sense of sufficiency settle into your breathing. The floor of the shelter is uneven but familiar. Softened by hides and grasses, it supports the body during rest. Sitting or lying here feels natural, not forced. The ground carries warmth slowly, holding it through the night. This steady warmth is another quiet benefit allowed by Allah through the natural order. You do not need to focus on this detail. Simply let the idea of warmth remain in the background. The shelter's shape also guides light. Firelight reflects softly off curved surfaces, avoiding harsh brightness. Shadows move slowly and predictably. Nothing flickers sharply. This visual softness is calming to the eyes and mind. If your eyelids feel heavier now, you are welcome to let them rest. There is a sense of familiarity embedded in the shelter. It has been built, repaired, and used many times before. The hands that shaped it followed patterns remembered rather than invented. This repetition brings comfort. The mind does not need to analyze the space. It already understands it. If you feel your thoughts becoming simpler here, that is natural. The shelter does not isolate people from one another. Instead, it brings them closer in a gentle way. The curved walls encourage shared warmth without forcing interaction. Presence is enough. Silence is acceptable. This shared quiet does not feel awkward. It feels normal. Let your own thoughts soften into this shared stillness. As the night deepens, the shelter's role becomes more passive. It no longer needs attention. It simply exists, holding warmth and quiet. This allows the people inside to let go of responsibility. If your mind is still holding on to the day, you can imagine placing those thoughts outside the shelter, where they can wait until morning. The roof of the shelter blocks the sky from view, but not in a restrictive way. It removes the need to watch or worry about what lies beyond. Inside, the focus narrows gently. This narrowing helps the mind move toward rest. You do not need wide awareness here. Small awareness is enough. Even the air inside the shelter feels calmer. Movement is minimal. Breath warms the space slowly. The shelter responds by holding that warmth. This quiet exchange continues throughout the night. If your breathing slows naturally as you listen, allow it to continue without effort. The shelter's shape also supports routine. People know where to sit, where to lie down, where tools belong. There are no decisions left to make. This lack of choice is restful. The mind can release control. You are free to simply follow the rhythm of the story. If at any point your thoughts wander away completely, that is acceptable. You can drift, then return, without effort. The shelter remains steady whether you are fully listening or half asleep. The curved walls seem to embrace the quiet rather than resist it. Outside sounds are softened. Inside sounds fade. The shelter becomes a space where nothing demands attention. This is not emptiness. It is calm fullness. As time passes, the shelter feels more like part of the body than a structure around it. Warmth, stillness, and familiarity blend together. You no longer need to imagine actively. The feeling carries itself. The shape of the shelter continues to do its work without being noticed. It protects, supports, and calms. There is nothing more required from it, and nothing more required from you. And as the night continues inside this gently curved space, the shelter remains quiet and steady, allowing rest to deepen naturally, without conclusion, without urgency, simply holding the moment as it slowly fades into sleep. At the center of the Ice Age shelter, the fire burns quietly, doing its work without drawing attention to itself. It is not large, and it is never allowed to grow wild. The flames stay low and steady, offering warmth by the permission of Allah through natural means understood and practiced with care. This fire is familiar, dependable, and calm. Its presence changes how the space feels, drawing people inward and encouraging stillness. If your thoughts feel scattered, you can gently bring them back to this soft, steady glow. The light from the fire moves slowly across the curved walls, creating shadows that feel predictable and unthreatening. Nothing flashes suddenly. Nothing demands focus. The eyes can rest here without effort. The firelight is warm rather than bright, and it softens the edges of everything it touches. This gentle light tells the body that it is safe to slow down. If your eyelids grow heavier as you imagine this, you do not need to resist it. The sound of the fire is subtle and rhythmic. A quiet crackle, a soft settling of embers. These sounds repeat in no particular pattern, yet they feel consistent. Over time, the mind stops analyzing them and simply accepts them as part of the background. This acceptance creates calm. If you notice your breathing matching this rhythm, allow it to continue naturally. The fire is carefully placed where everyone can benefit from it. Warmth spreads evenly, reaching those sitting or lying nearby. This warmth is not intense. It does not overwhelm. It simply stays. The body responds by releasing tension built up during the day. Muscles loosen without instruction. There is no need to focus on this change. It happens on its own. Someone in the shelter may quietly tend the fire, adjusting it with small, practice movements. These actions are slow and efficient, learned through repetition. No one speaks while this happens. There is no need. The fire is part of routine, not an event. If your attention drifts during this moment, you can return to the steady presence of warmth. The fire also marks time in a subtle way. As the evening deepens, the flames lower slightly and the light dims. This gradual change guides the shelter toward rest. There is no sudden signal that the day has ended. Instead, the fire gently leads everyone toward stillness. If your mind is still active, imagine it slowing with the fire. Shadows stretch and soften as the fire settles. Objects lose sharp definition. Tools and hides blend into the background. This visual simplicity reduces the need to focus. The mind can relax into fewer details. If your thoughts feel quieter now than before, that is a natural response to the setting. The warmth from the fire reaches the ground, helping maintain a stable temperature through the night. This steady warmth is another benefit allowed by Allah through the natural order. It creates a sense of reliability. The body trusts that the warmth will remain. This trust allows deeper rest. You do not need to hold on to this thought. Let it stay in the background. The fire is never left unattended, but it does not require constant focus. Once adjusted, it continues on its own. This balance between care and ease reflects the rhythm of the camp. Attention is given when needed, then released. If your mind tends to hold onto things too tightly, you can imagine releasing them here. The center of the shelter becomes the calmest point. Movements around it are slow and minimal. People naturally arrange themselves in a way that feels comfortable. There is no instruction, no correction. The fire quietly shapes behavior without effort. If you imagine yourself near it, notice how little you feel the need to move. The air near the fire feels warmer but not dry. The smoke is minimal, guided upward and outward through small openings. The shelter holds just enough warmth while allowing excess to escape. This balance keeps the space comfortable. Breathing here feels easy and unforced. If you notice your breath slowing, let it happen. As the fire continues to burn, it becomes less something to watch and more something to feel. Warmth, light, and sound blend together. The mind no longer separates them. This blending helps thoughts soften and slow. You may find yourself listening without actively imagining. That is perfectly fine. The fire does not symbolize anything grand. It is simply present. It provides what is needed and nothing more. This simplicity is restful. There is no expectation attached to it. If your thoughts wander away completely, the fire remains steady whether you notice it or not. Time inside the shelter becomes less defined as the fire settles. There is no urgency, no next task waiting. The fire's steady presence allows the night to unfold naturally. If you feel yourself drifting between wakefulness and sleep, you can allow that state to continue. The warmth encourages people to draw closer, but not in a forced way. Comfort guides these small shifts. The shelter feels balanced. Everyone has enough space and enough warmth. This balance contributes to a sense of quiet satisfaction. Nothing feels lacking. As embers glow softly, the fire gives off less light but maintains warmth. This gentle dimming signals deeper rest. The shelter responds by growing quieter. Breathing becomes more noticeable than movement. The world outside feels distant and unimportant. The fire continues its quiet work at the center, holding warmth, light, and calm together. There is no dramatic ending to this moment. It simply continues, steady and unchanging, allowing rest to deepen naturally as the night moves forward without asking for attention. As the fire settles into a steady, quieter glow, attention naturally shifts toward rest. Inside the shelter, sleeping spaces are not separate rooms, but carefully arranged areas along the edges. These spaces are familiar, shaped by repeated use. There is no rush to lie down. The body recognizes the time through routine rather than instruction. If your thoughts begin to slow here, you can allow them to. The sleeping areas are placed where warmth from the fire can still be felt, but without direct heat. This balance keeps the body comfortable through the night. The ground is prepared with layers of hides, grasses, and soft materials, creating simple bedding. These layers provide comfort by the permission of Allah through natural means. Nothing is luxurious, yet everything is sufficient. People rest close to one another, sharing warmth naturally. This closeness is practical and calm. There is no discomfort in it. The shelter holds everyone gently, making the space feel stable and protected. If you imagine lying down here, notice how the body feels supported rather than tense. There is no strict order to who sleeps where, yet patterns exist. These patterns are remembered rather than enforced. Each person knows their place without needing to decide. This lack of decision is restful for the mind. You do not need to imagine faces or names. The feeling of routine is enough. As bodies settle onto the bedding, movements become minimal. Adjustments are small and quiet. A hide is pulled closer. A position is shifted slightly. These motions happen slowly, without disrupting the calm. If your own body feels the urge to settle more deeply, you can follow that sensation. The air inside the shelter grows warmer and more still as everyone rests. Breathing becomes softer and more even. The shelter holds this warmth gently, allowing it to remain through the night. This steady environment helps the body relax fully. There is no need to remain alert here. Children rest near adults, drawn by warmth and familiarity. Their breathing slows first, guiding the rest of the shelter into deeper quiet. There is comfort in shared rest. Silence does not feel empty. It feels complete. If your thoughts fade in and out here, that is natural. The sounds of the shelter are now very subtle. The fire crackles faintly. Breath moves softly through the space. Outside noises are distant and unimportant. This reduced sound allows the mind to disengage from constant listening. You can let go of the need to stay aware. Sleeping positions are chosen for comfort rather than formality. Some lie on their sides. Others rest on their backs. The shelter accommodates each position without resistance. The ground, softened by layers, holds the body gently. There is no pressure to remain still. Small movements are acceptable and quiet. As rest deepens, thoughts become less organized. Memories of the day lose their sharp edges. The body no longer prepares for action. This transition happens gradually. There is no clear moment when sleep begins. If you notice yourself drifting, you do not need to return. Warmth remains steady throughout the night. The fire's heat reaches the sleeping spaces without overwhelming them. This consistency allows the body to remain relaxed. There is no need to wake and adjust often. The shelter has already done its work. The sense of safety inside the shelter is quiet and unspoken. There are no guards or signals. Trust in the space is enough. This trust allows deeper rest. If your mind still holds onto worries, you can imagine leaving them outside the shelter. Time passes without being measured. The night stretches calmly. Inside the shelter, there is no awareness of hours. The only rhythm is breathing and warmth. This absence of timekeeping removes pressure. You are not expected to do anything. As the night continues, the body finds a deeper level of stillness. Muscles release completely. The ground feels stable and unmoving. The shelter remains unchanged. This consistency reassures the body that it can remain at rest. Dreams may begin softly, blending with memory and imagination. There is no need to follow them. They come and go on their own. The shelter remains quiet, holding rest without interruption. Even if someone stirs briefly, the movement is gentle and does not disturb others. The space absorbs these small changes easily. Calm returns immediately. This resilience adds to the sense of safety. The night air outside grows colder, but inside the shelter, warmth persists. The contrast is not felt directly. The shelter maintains separation between effort and rest. This separation allows sleep to deepen naturally. As the fire dims further, light becomes minimal. Darkness inside the shelter feels soft rather than empty. The absence of light encourages rest without fear. The body understands this darkness as a signal to remain still. Breathing throughout the shelter becomes synchronized in its slowness. This shared rhythm reinforces calm. There is no need to listen closely. The sound fades into the background. The shelter continues to hold everyone gently, without change or demand. It does not interrupt sleep. It simply remains present, allowing rest to continue undisturbed. And as the night carries on inside these simple sleeping spaces, rest settles fully, without conclusion or urgency, holding the body and mind in quiet stillness as sleep deepens naturally. Inside the shelter, even as rest settles in, certain tools remain within easy reach. They are placed along the edges of the space, close enough to be found without effort. These tools are not displayed or emphasized. They simply rest where they belong. Their presence does not disturb the calm. Instead, it adds a quiet sense of readiness that allows the mind to relax further. Each tool shows signs of repeated use. Smooth stone edges, worn wooden grips, and carefully shaped bone pieces reflect long familiarity. These objects are shaped through effort, and their usefulness exists by the permission of Allah through natural means. There is no sense of danger attached to them here. They are part of daily life, understood and trusted. The placement of tools follows a pattern learned over time. Hands know where to reach even in low light. This familiarity reduces the need for thought. The mind does not worry about preparation or uncertainty. Everything needed for the next day is already accounted for. If your thoughts tend to plan ahead, you can let that habit rest here. Tools are kept close to the walls, leaving the central space open and calm. This arrangement allows movement without disturbance. The shelter remains balanced and orderly. Order here is not strict. It is practical and gentle. This subtle organization contributes to the overall sense of peace. When someone adjusts a tool or checks its condition, the movement is slow and deliberate. Stone touches stone softly. Fingers trace familiar surfaces. These sounds are quiet and controlled. They do not interrupt rest. Instead, they reinforce the sense that everything is in its place. There is no urgency in maintaining tools at this hour. Repairs are minimal. Most work waits until morning. The act of simply knowing the tools are there is enough. This knowledge removes concern. The body does not need to stay alert. Tools are never scattered. They are respected through careful placement, not through ceremony. This respect comes from understanding their role. They serve, and then they rest. This rhythm mirrors the people inside the shelter. As the night deepens, tools fade from attention. They remain present but unnoticed. The mind no longer categorizes or labels them. They become part of the background, like the walls or the fire's warmth. The familiarity of these objects brings quiet reassurance. They represent continuity rather than threat. Tomorrow's needs are already anticipated. There is nothing left to prepare. This sense of readiness allows deeper relaxation. Even in low light, the shapes of tools are recognizable. Their outlines are soft, not sharp. Shadows reduce their prominence. The eyes can pass over them without stopping. Visual calm supports mental calm. The tools do not carry symbolic meaning here. They are not reminders of conflict or struggle. They are simple extensions of daily tasks. Their presence inside the shelter feels neutral and steady. If someone briefly reaches for a tool to move it slightly, the action is instinctive. There is no tension in the movement. The shelter absorbs the sound easily. Quiet returns immediately. As rest deepens, tools are no longer part of awareness. The mind turns inward. Thoughts slow. The shelter remains unchanged. Nothing unexpected is likely to occur. The knowledge that tools are close by creates a subtle sense of security. This security does not require vigilance. It allows the body to let go of readiness and move toward rest. Tools remain unused through most of the night. They wait without demand. This waiting is calm, not expectant. It mirrors the stillness of the shelter itself. The presence of tools does not pull attention away from rest. Instead, it supports it by removing uncertainty. Everything needed is already here. As the fire dims further, tools blend into shadow. Their edges soften. The shelter feels simpler, quieter. The night continues without interruption. Breathing throughout the space remains slow and even. The tools remain still. The shelter holds both people and objects in the same quiet balance. Nothing changes suddenly. The night does not require action. Tools remain at rest, just as the people do. And as the shelter settles deeper into silence, the tools stay quietly within reach, unnoticed and undemanding, allowing rest to continue naturally without drawing the mind back into wakefulness. Inside the shelter, the feeling of warmth becomes more noticeable as the night deepens. It is not a sudden heat, but a steady comfort that stays close to the body. The cold outside remains outside. Inside, the air feels softened, as if the shelter gently holds the temperature in place. The warmth comes in layers, much like the shelter itself. There is warmth from the fire, warmth from bodies resting nearby, and warmth held in hides and bedding. All of this comfort exists by the permission of Allah through natural means and careful routine. Nothing here works on its own power. It is simply part of the created order, used wisely. As you imagine breathing inside the shelter, you might notice the air feels different than open air. It is calmer, less sharp. Each breath seems to arrive more slowly. This slower breathing can guide your mind toward rest without effort. If your attention drifts, you can return to the simple feeling of warm air entering and leaving. There is also a familiar scent in this space, gentle and lived in. It may carry hints of dry grasses, warm hides, and faint smoke. The smell is not overwhelming. It is a quiet background presence, like the fire's soft crackle. Familiar scents often tell the body it is safe to rest. The smoke itself is minimal, carefully managed. It rises slowly, finding its way through small openings. The shelter keeps enough warmth while allowing excess smoke to escape. This balance makes breathing easier and keeps the space comfortable. The air does not feel heavy. It feels stable. Warm hides contribute their own scent, soft and earthy. These hides have been used many times, handled and folded and laid out again. Their smell is part of routine. It reminds the mind of evenings that ended the same way, with calm and rest. Routine can be as comforting as warmth. The ground has its own smell too, a quiet earthiness that anchors the space. Packed soil, dust, and dried plant fibers blend together. Nothing is fresh or sharp. Everything is muted. This muted quality supports a muted state of mind, slower and less reactive. Near the fire, the scent is slightly warmer, slightly richer. Not dramatic, just present. You might imagine the faint aroma of heated wood and embers. It is a smell that signals continuation rather than change. The fire does not announce itself. It simply persists. If you picture yourself shifting slightly on the bedding, you may imagine the smell of dried grasses rising softly for a moment, then settling again. These small changes are gentle. They do not disturb the calm. They simply confirm that this is a real, lived space. As the night continues, the smells remain consistent. Consistency is important. It means the mind does not need to stay alert for new information. The body trusts what it recognizes. This trust supports deeper rest. Warmth settles into clothing and hides, creating a sense of being wrapped, even without heavy covering. The shelter's low ceiling helps keep heat close. The warmth stays where people are, near the ground, near the bedding. It is practical warmth, used carefully. The air carries the quiet presence of many breaths, but not in a crowded way. The space feels shared, yet comfortable. The scent of the shelter becomes a single blended background, not separate smells competing for attention. This blending feels calming. Outside, wind may continue to move across the landscape, but inside, the air remains still. That stillness can feel like a gentle pause. You do not need to imagine the outside clearly. The shelter removes that responsibility. Inside is enough. If your thoughts begin to wander into the day's worries, you can imagine the shelter's smell and warmth gently pulling your attention back. Not forcefully, just softly. The body often returns more easily to sensation than to thought. Warmth and scent can guide you back. The people inside do not speak much now. Silence makes the scent more noticeable, not stronger, but clearer. In quiet spaces, small details become easier to sense. This can feel soothing, like noticing a familiar blanket or a quiet room. The fire's warmth remains steady, and the scent of smoke stays faint. Nothing becomes sharp or uncomfortable. The shelter has been shaped to avoid extremes. This careful moderation is part of why it feels restful. As the fire dims, the warmth does not disappear immediately. The shelter holds it. Hides and bedding hold it. The ground holds it. This slow release keeps the night stable. Stability is comforting, and comfort makes sleep easier. The blended scent of earth, hide, and faint smoke becomes a kind of signature for the shelter. It is not permanent, and it does not promise eternity. It is simply present for this night, and that is enough. The mind can rest in what is temporary and quiet. Breathing slows further as warmth stays consistent. The body has fewer reasons to shift or adjust. The mind has fewer reasons to analyze. Sensation becomes soft, and thoughts become lighter. And as the night continues inside this simple shelter, the warmth and familiar scent remain gently in the background, steady and undemanding, allowing rest to deepen naturally without any strong ending, as if the camp itself is quietly inviting sleep. Inside the shelter, the evening becomes a time for quiet social moments, not loud conversation or entertainment. People are close enough to feel one another's presence, yet no one needs to fill the space with words. The calm is shared, and that shared calm makes the shelter feel even warmer. If your mind is still busy, you can let it match the pace here, when nothing is urgent and nothing is demanded. Voices, when they appear, are low and brief. A few words might pass between two people near the fire, then fade back into silence. The tone is practical, gentle, and familiar. It is the kind of speech that does not seek attention. This soft exchange helps the mind feel safe, because it signals that the day has ended without trouble. If your thoughts begin to drift, you can return to the quiet sound of low voices and then let them fade again. Most communication happens through small actions rather than long sentences. Someone shifts a hide to cover a sleeping space. Someone else moves an object slightly closer to the wall. These movements are subtle, and they carry meaning without needing explanation. The shelter becomes a place where people understand one another through routine. If you feel yourself relaxing as you imagine this, you are following the shelter's rhythm. A child might lean closer to an adult, not seeking a story, but simply seeking warmth and closeness. The adult may respond with a small adjustment, offering a corner of a hide or a steadier place to rest. This is care expressed quietly, without ceremony. All benefit and ease come by the permission of Allah, through human kindness and simple acts. If you notice a gentle feeling in your chest as you listen, you can let it stay there. There is a calm awareness in the shelter, a shared understanding that everyone has done enough for one day. The body recognizes this and releases tension. No one is proving anything. No one is performing. The social life of the camp is not built on constant interaction, but on steady presence. If you ever feel pressure in modern life to talk or respond, this moment offers something different, being together without obligation. The firelight makes faces softer, less defined, more peaceful. Expressions are relaxed. Eyes blink slowly. In this dim warmth, people are not focused on appearances. They are focused on comfort. The shelter's quiet helps everyone become more gentle, even in their movements. If you imagine looking around the space, notice how still it feels, and how that stillness makes everything simpler. Sometimes the only sounds are the smallest ones. A soft cough, a quiet breath, a piece of bedding settling as someone finds a better position. These sounds do not interrupt calm. They belong to it. The shelter holds them the way it holds warmth, without reacting. If your attention catches on a small sound, you can let it pass by, like a leaf floating on slow water. If there is laughter, it is rare and brief, like a small spark rather than a fire. It does not grow. It does not shift the mood. It simply appears and then returns to quiet. Most of the time, the emotional tone remains steady. This steadiness is comforting to the nervous system. If you feel yourself calming more deeply now, it may be because nothing in this scene asks you to brace yourself for change. The social warmth of the camp is not about excitement. It is about belonging. People know they are not alone in the cold world outside. Inside, the shelter becomes a shared pause, a place where life can soften. This sense of shared safety is a gift from Allah through the created order and through human cooperation. You do not need to analyze it. You can simply let it be a quiet background feeling. In the corner of the shelter, someone may check a small bundle of materials, not to work, but to make sure everything is in its place. Another person may watch briefly, then close their eyes again. This is cooperation without conversation. It is subtle, and it reduces uncertainty. When uncertainty reduces, rest becomes easier. If your mind tends to search for what comes next, you can rest in the knowledge that nothing urgent is coming. Even the way people sit reflects the evening's calm. They sit low, close to the ground, shoulders relaxed, hands resting. No one stands for long. Standing would feel unnecessary now. The shelter is made for resting postures. It invites the body to fold into comfort. If you are listening while lying down, you may notice how naturally your own body fits into this slow rhythm. Sometimes a person will look toward the entrance, not with fear, but with a quiet habit of awareness. Then they look away again, satisfied. That brief glance is enough. It is not vigilance. It is simply a small check, like touching a pocket to confirm something is there. If you catch yourself checking your phone or scanning your room in real life, imagine that you can set that habit down for now. In these quiet moments, attention often turns to simple maintenance. A hide is folded. A tool is nudged into a familiar place. A fire ember is adjusted. These actions are soothing because they are predictable. Predictability tells the mind it can rest. If your thoughts wander to unfinished tasks, imagine those tasks being placed gently along the shelter wall, ready for tomorrow, but not needed tonight. The shelter also allows people to share silence without discomfort. In many modern spaces, silence can feel awkward. Here, it feels normal. Silence is not emptiness. It is the natural state of a restful evening. If you notice your mind searching for more stimulation, you can let that search soften and return to the quiet presence of bodies resting together. At times, someone might hum softly, not as a performance, but as a small comfort, almost like breathing. If that happens, it is quiet and brief, and it fades back into stillness. Nothing here tries to hold attention for long. This is a good environment for sleep because it does not create peaks. If you feel yourself drifting, you can drift without losing anything important. The social bond of the camp is also built through shared memory. People have done this evening routine many times. They know where to place themselves, how to share warmth, how to end the day. That shared memory is calming. It reduces the need for decisions. If you have ever felt comfort in a familiar bedtime routine, you already understand this feeling. As the night deepens, speech becomes even less likely. The shelter's social life transitions into a shared quiet, where the only interaction is the gentle awareness of others nearby. This awareness can feel like a blanket. It does not cover you tightly. It covers you softly. If your breathing slows as you imagine this, you can allow it and let your body become heavier. If someone wakes briefly, they do not announce it. They may shift, then settle again. They know the shelter will hold them. Others do not react. The camp does not become alert. Calm returns instantly, as if it was never interrupted. This resilience is important. It means rest is the default state. If you wake in the night sometimes, you can borrow this idea. Waking is brief, and rest returns naturally. The fire continues to glow low, and that low glow supports a low mood, quiet and steady. People are no longer forming plans or telling long stories. The day is complete. The shelter's social moments become simple presence. If you notice your thoughts thinning out, becoming less structured, you are moving closer to the shelter's nighttime rhythm. Every so often, you might gently remember where we are, inside an Ice Age shelter at dusk, where warmth, familiarity, and shared quiet make the world feel smaller. You do not need to hold this image sharply. You can hold it loosely, like holding a warm cup with relaxed hands. If your attention slips away, it can return just as softly. And as these quiet social moments fade into deeper stillness, the shelter remains a place where being together requires nothing at all. The fire glows, breathing slows, and the night continues without any strong conclusion, leaving you with a calm, unfinished softness that makes it easy to drift further towards sleep. Outside the shelter, the Ice Age world is wide and cold, but inside, the camp creates a boundary that changes everything. This boundary is not a wall in the modern sense. It is a layer of hides, earth, and careful placement that softens the wind and narrows the world. The moment you are inside, the feeling shifts from exposure to protection. The body notices this immediately. Shoulders drop. Breathing slows. If your thoughts are still moving quickly, imagine them slowing as they cross this boundary, becoming quieter with each step inward. The entrance to the shelter is small for a reason. It reduces how much cold air can enter, and it reduces how much attention the outside can demand. When the entrance is covered, even partially, The darkness and stillness feel calmer. The mind does not have to scan the horizon. It does not have to watch the sky. This is a gift from Allah through simple design and human learning. The shelter does not create safety on its own, but it becomes a means through which Allah allows calm to reach the people inside. Wind sounds change the most. Outside, wind can feel loud and sharp, moving across open land with nothing to slow it. Inside, the same wind becomes a distant hush, as if it is speaking from far away. The shelter absorbs the harshness and leaves only a soft reminder that the world is still there. This softer sound helps the mind relax. If you notice yourself listening too closely, you can let that listening loosen, trusting that the shelter holds what matters. Temperature is another clear difference. Outside, cold air presses against the skin and demands attention. Inside, warmth holds steady. Not perfect warmth, but enough. The body no longer needs to fight for comfort. This relief is subtle but powerful. It allows muscles to unclench. It allows the jaw to relax. If your body feels tense as you listen, imagine the steady inside warmth gently dissolving that tension, not all at once, but gradually, like ice melting in a slow dawn. Light behaves differently too. Outside, dusk fades into night across a vast landscape, making shadows feel deep and wide. Inside, the firelight makes a smaller universe. The darkness is no longer open and endless. It is contained, softened by walls and bedding. The mind often rests better in small spaces than in large ones, because small spaces feel manageable. If your thoughts feel large and heavy, imagine them shrinking into something simpler inside this sheltered light. The shelter also changes the way people move. Outside, walking is purposeful and alert. Inside, movement becomes careful and slow. Feet do not stomp. Hands do not grab. Everything is quieter. This slower pace teaches the nervous system that urgency is over. If you are carrying urgency from your own day, imagine placing it outside the shelter, like a heavy pack set down on the ground, where it can wait until morning. Protection here is not only physical. It is psychological. Outside, the mind must constantly interpret the environment: sounds, shadows, distance, weather. Inside, interpretation is not as necessary. The shelter filters the world so the mind can rest. This filtering is one of the most important comforts. If you feel your mind trying to predict what comes next, you can let it rest in the shelter's simple message: nothing needs to be solved right now. The camp's boundary also creates privacy, in a quiet, natural way. Not secrecy, but a pause from the wide exposure of the open land. Inside, faces are softened by dim light. Voices are low. The world does not watch. This privacy allows the body to release performance. It is easier to be tired here, easier to be quiet. If you often feel watched or judged in daily life, this shelter offers the opposite feeling, being allowed to simply exist, unnoticed. Even smells contribute to protection. Outside air is sharp and cold, carrying whatever the wind finds. Inside air is familiar, warm, and stable. Familiarity itself is protective. It reduces surprise. It reduces alertness. If your attention drifts away as you listen, you can gently return to this idea of familiar air, like a soft blanket that does not press down, but simply stays near you. The shelter also limits sight lines. Outside, the eyes can travel far, and the mind follows, imagining what might be out there. Inside, the eyes settle on nearby shapes, bedding, tools, the fire's glow. This limited view is calming. It tells the mind there is no need to search the distance. If you notice your imagination wandering too far outward, you can bring it back to the small circle of firelight. In an Ice Age camp, protection is shared. It is not a single person's responsibility. It is built into routine, where the shelter is placed, how it is shaped, how the entrance is covered, how the fire is kept. This shared structure reduces anxiety, because no one carries the whole burden alone. By the permission of Allah, cooperation becomes a means of ease. If you feel burdened in your own life, imagine that burden being spread out and softened by shared support. The boundary also changes the meaning of silence. Outside, silence can feel uncertain because it may hide distant movement or shifting weather. Inside, silence becomes a sign that all is well. It is a comfortable silence, a resting silence. If you hear silence around you in your own room, you can borrow this perspective and allow silence to become comforting rather than tense. Sometimes small sounds from outside still reach the shelter, but they arrive muffled and gentle. A distant gust, a soft scrape of something moving in the wind. These sounds do not demand action. They simply remind the shelter that it is part of the world. This is balance, not total isolation, but a softened connection. If you find outside noises distracting, imagine them becoming softer as they pass through layers of hide and earth. Protection also appears in the way people position themselves. They rest close enough to share warmth and to feel each other's presence. Presence itself becomes a kind of shelter inside the shelter. It reassures the mind that it is not alone. If you are listening alone, you can still imagine that calm presence as a gentle idea, like being near a quiet group without needing to speak. As night deepens, the boundary feels stronger. Not because it changes, but because the outside grows colder and darker, making the inside contrast more comforting. The fire's small warmth becomes more valuable. The shelter's still air becomes more noticeable. If your body is beginning to feel heavier, that heaviness matches the night's deepening, and you can allow it. The camp's protection is also temporary, and that is part of its calm. It does not claim to last forever. It only needs to last through the night. This humility is restful. The mind does not have to hold onto grand promises. It can rest in what is enough for now, by the permission of Allah. If you ever feel pressure to make everything permanent, you can let that pressure go here. Even the act of closing the entrance feels like closing the day. It is a simple action, but it signals a shift. The outside can wait. The inside is for rest. If your mind is still replaying the day, imagine closing it gently, not locking it away, just setting it aside. The day will still exist tomorrow, but tonight it does not need your attention. The shelter's boundary also protects the rhythm of sleep. Without constant cold drafts or bright open sky, the body can maintain a steady temperature. This steadiness prevents waking. It supports deep rest. If you are listening while trying to sleep, imagine your own room becoming more like this shelter, steady and quiet, with fewer changes and fewer interruptions. Every so often, you can gently remember the simple scene: a small shelter, a low fire, warm air, and the outside world softened into distance. You do not need to visualize it sharply. A faint impression is enough. If your attention slips away, it can return to this simple boundary, where the outside becomes quiet and the inside becomes calm. And as the night continues, the shelter remains a quiet line between effort and rest. Outside stays wide and cold. Inside stays warm and familiar. This boundary does not announce itself. It simply holds, allowing bodies to remain relaxed, thoughts to become lighter, and sleep to deepen naturally without any strong ending. Repetition is one of the quiet secrets of an Ice Age camp. Not repetition as boredom, but repetition as comfort. When the day ends, the same small sequence begins again, guiding everyone toward rest. The body does not need to ask what comes next. It already knows. And when the body knows, the mind can soften. If your thoughts feel busy tonight, imagine them loosening as they enter a routine that has happened many times before. The evening often begins with the same gentle actions. Someone checks the entrance covering. Someone ensures the fire is steady. Bedding is adjusted. Tools are placed where hands can find them later. These are not dramatic tasks. They are quiet rituals of practical care. By the permission of Allah, these routines become a means of calm through the natural order. If you feel yourself relaxing as you listen, you can let that relaxation deepen without effort. Because the steps are familiar, they require less thinking. Less thinking means less tension. The mind does not need to decide, evaluate, or plan. It simply follows the pattern. In modern life, decisions can feel endless. Here, decisions are few. Routine carries the weight. If you are tired of thinking, you can borrow this idea. Let the pattern hold you for a while. The shelter itself supports repetition. Its shape encourages the same movements each night. The fire sits in its usual place. Bedding spreads along the edges. Objects are stored where they belong. Even the way people sit follows an unspoken design. The environment teaches the body what to do. If your attention drifts, you can return to the simple image of repeated motions in a dim, warm space. Repetition also creates memory, and memory creates trust. When something has happened safely many times, the mind stops treating it as uncertain. It begins to treat it as dependable. This dependability reduces alertness. It invites sleep. If you notice your mind scanning for problems, imagine it learning, slowly, that there is nothing new to solve tonight. Small routines carry big meaning without needing words. The act of placing a tool down in the same spot says, "Tomorrow will come." The act of tending the fire says, "Warmth will remain." These are not promises of permanence. They are simple preparations for the next morning, by the permission of Allah. If you feel comfort in this quiet preparation, you can rest in it. Even the timing of the routine is familiar. Dusk arrives. The sky darkens. The shelter warms. Voices lower. Bodies slow. These cues repeat across seasons. The body learns to respond automatically. This automatic response is restful because it removes effort. If you are listening late at night, notice how your own body recognizes darkness and begins to soften. Repetition helps people conserve energy. When actions are practiced, they require fewer movements, fewer mistakes, fewer corrections. Everything becomes smoother. This smoothness makes the shelter quieter. Quiet supports rest. If you imagine hands moving slowly in firelight, doing the same actions they did yesterday, you may feel a sense of calm settling into your chest. There is also comfort in knowing the routine has a clear direction, toward sleep. The evening pattern is not endless. It gently narrows, guiding everyone from activity to stillness. Each step is smaller than the last. If your mind feels like it keeps expanding, jumping from thought to thought, imagine it narrowing now, moving toward a simpler place. Repetition makes silence easier. When you know what comes next, you do not need to talk about it. Words become unnecessary. The shelter can be quiet without feeling empty. This quiet becomes a natural part of the pattern. If you feel the urge to fill silence with noise, you can let that urge fade, trusting the routine to carry the moment. Some routines are so small they are almost invisible. A hide is folded in the same way. A bundle is placed along the wall. An ember is nudged back into position. These actions take only seconds, yet they repeat night after night. Small repetition creates a stable world. If your thoughts feel unstable, imagine them settling into the same gentle groove. Over time, routine becomes a signal to the body. When the same steps begin, the body prepares for rest automatically. Heart rate slows. Breathing deepens. Muscles release. This shift happens without permission or instruction. It is simply a response to familiar cues. If your body is beginning to feel heavy now, that heaviness is welcome. The camp's routine also creates a sense of shared understanding. No one needs to explain the evening. Everyone participates quietly. This shared participation reduces loneliness and uncertainty. By the permission of Allah, human cooperation becomes a means of ease. If you are listening alone, you can still feel the calm of shared rhythm, as if you are near others who are also settling into rest. Routine protects against sudden change. When a night follows a known pattern, surprises are less likely. Less surprise means less alertness. The mind can let go of scanning. It can stop rehearsing. If you notice your mind rehearsing tomorrow, imagine routine gently telling it, "Not now, tomorrow can wait." Repetition also makes the shelter feel like a familiar place, not just a structure. The shelter holds the memory of prior evenings, prior rests, prior mornings. This memory is not permanent. It is simply present for now. Yet it is enough to create comfort. If you have ever slept better in a familiar room, you already understand this. As the routine continues, each step becomes quieter. The last adjustments are made. The fire is set to burn low. Bedding is settled. Bodies take their places. There is a gentle feeling of completion, but not a dramatic ending. The evening does not resolve anything. It simply closes softly. Sometimes the mind tries to resist routine, wanting novelty. But in a camp like this, novelty is not the goal. Stability is. Stability creates rest. If your mind wants stimulation, you can let it down gently and return to the repeated image of warmth and dim light. The routine will not change quickly. It will remain steady. The rhythm of repetition continues even when people sleep. Breathing repeats. The fire repeats its faint crackle. The shelter repeats its quiet holding. Night repeats its slow deepening. All of this repetition tells the body it can remain asleep. If you wake briefly, imagine this repetition still there, guiding you back down. Every so often, you can gently remember the main thread: the camp at dusk, the shelter, the fire, the routine. You do not need to picture it sharply. A soft impression is enough. Let that impression be your anchor, returning you whenever thoughts drift too far. As routine reaches its quietest point, there is less and less to notice. That is the point. The mind is invited to stop noticing, to stop labeling, to stop preparing. If your thoughts are fading, allow them to fade without resistance. And as the Ice Age camp settles into the deepest part of its nightly rhythm, repetition continues like a soft lullaby made of small actions and steady warmth, carrying everyone forward without strong conclusion, letting the night remain calm, unfinished, and easy to sleep through. Inside the Ice Age shelter, the night feels like a quiet chapter in human history, one that does not shout to be remembered. The camp is small, practical, and calm. Nothing here is grand, and that simplicity is part of what makes it soothing. The fire is low, the bedding is settled, and the outside world has been softened into distance. If your mind is still searching for something to hold onto, you can hold onto this gentle scene: warmth near the ground, dim light, and steady breathing. It is easy to imagine the Ice Age as only hardship, but inside a shelter like this, there is also relief. The people here are not only surviving, they are resting. Rest is a quiet strength. It allows the body to recover and the mind to reset. By the permission of Allah, rest becomes a mercy through the natural order, arriving through shelter, warmth, and routine. If you feel your own body relaxing, you can accept it without needing to explain it. The camp at night is shaped by ordinary choices made carefully. Where to build, how to face the wind, how to cover the entrance, how to place the fire. These choices may seem small, yet they create comfort that lasts through the dark hours. Nothing here claims permanence. The shelter serves for this night, and that is enough. If your thoughts are heavy with long timelines, you can let them shorten into this one quiet evening. In the dimness, the shelter becomes a world of gentle limits. The walls curve. The firelight softens edges. The mind does not need to look far. It can rest in what is close. This closeness encourages a calm kind of attention, the kind that does not grip. If you are still awake, you can listen as if you are watching firelight through half-closed eyes, letting details blur naturally. Outside, the landscape continues to exist, wide and cold, but it no longer dominates the senses. The shelter filters it into a distant hush. This filtering is a form of comfort. It tells the body, you can stop scanning now. If you notice your mind trying to stay vigilant, you can gently allow it to release the habit, just for tonight, and return to the steady warmth that Allah allows through simple means. Time in the camp is not measured in numbers. It is measured in changes that are almost too slow to notice. The fire shifts from flame to ember. Breathing becomes deeper. Movements become rare. This slow pace helps the mind loosen its grip on urgency. If you are used to busy days, you can let this slower rhythm teach your body a different tempo, one that does not demand anything. The people inside the shelter are not thinking about being remembered. They are thinking about comfort, warmth, and tomorrow's tasks in the simplest way. History often feels like a story of big events, but most of it is made of evenings like this. Quiet, repetitive, and practical. If you enjoy boring history for sleep, this is the heart of it. The ordinary moments that shaped human life more than any dramatic scene. In this shelter, the day's work has already ended. There is no more gathering, no more walking, no more watching the distance. The body has permission to stop. If you are listening at the end of your own day, you can take this as a quiet reminder that stopping is allowed. Rest is not laziness. Rest is a necessary part of being human, a gentle balance within life. The fire gives a final soft glow that does not insist on attention. It is enough to show the outline of hides and the curve of the wall. Shadows move slowly, then settle. This slow settling can become your own settling. If you notice your face relaxing, your jaw unclenching, or your hands loosening, you can let those changes continue without interruption. The shelter's warmth remains near the ground, steady and quiet. It does not promise to last forever. It only needs to last through the night, by the permission of Allah. This is a calming truth. The mind does not need eternal guarantees in order to rest. It only needs enough safety for now. If your thoughts reach for certainty, you can offer them this. Tonight is held, and that is enough. Breathing becomes the main sound. It is soft, slow, and shared. Even if you imagine the camp without focusing on individuals, you can sense the calm presence of other people nearby. This presence does not demand interaction. It simply exists. If you are alone while listening, you can still borrow the comfort of shared calm, as if quiet companionship is present without words. The night continues without clear milestones. There is no announcement of midnight, no sharp turn in the story. The shelter remains the same. The air remains warm. The outside remains distant. This lack of change is not empty. It is restful. If your mind tries to create an ending, you can let it soften and accept that the night is allowed to be unfinished. In this unfinished night, the small routines remain in the background. The entrance stays covered. Tools stay in place. Bedding stays settled. These small certainties reduce the need for thought. The mind can drift. If you notice yourself drifting now, you do not need to return. Drifting is part of the design of this story. The camp, in its quiet way, shows a simple human skill, shaping comfort out of a harsh environment. Not through fantasy, not through grand claims, but through careful choices. Shelter, warmth, routine, and cooperation become the means through which Allah allows ease. If you feel gratitude for comfort in your own life, you can let that feeling be gentle and quiet, without turning it into a heavy thought. As the fire lowers further, the shelter grows darker, but the darkness feels soft. It is not a threat. It is a signal that the world is resting. The mind often follows what the environment suggests. Here, everything suggests slowing down. If you are still awake, you can let your attention rest on my voice and let everything else fade into a quiet background. The Ice Age camp inside the shelter is not dramatic, and that is what makes it powerful for sleep. It is a scene of quiet continuity. People have done this before. They will do it again. But nothing here claims to be unending. It is simply one night, held gently. If you are feeling sleepy, you can let this night become your night, merging softly with your own room. Even if your mind wakes briefly, the scene remains stable. Fire, embers, warmth, low shelter, quiet air. You can return to these details as easily as returning to a familiar blanket. There is no need to work at it. The image is simple, and simplicity is restful. Let your breathing stay slow and your thoughts stay light. Now, as we reach the end of this segment, you can allow the story to grow quieter, like embers settling into ash. The camp remains warm enough. The shelter remains steady. The outside remains distant. And your mind is free to drift wherever it wants, without needing to hold onto every word. And with a calm heart, I want to offer a gentle reflection before we part. In the quiet of an Ice Age shelter, we can feel how much of history is made of ordinary nights, steady warmth, and simple routines that let the human body finally rest. Thank you for listening to this story. May Allah allow you comfort and ease, and may your night be peaceful. Whenever you are ready, you can let the images fade, let the firelight dim in your imagination, and drift gently into sleep.